I am an old man now, and there was one particular time in my life that I will never forget. It was when I was still young, in the prime of my life. As befitted a typical young male, I was reckless and wild, paying no regard to my life because I thought I was invincible and would never die. One day, a bunch of friends and I were going to a river to do some bridge jumping. There was also a rope tied to the bridge, so we would go under the bridge to the high ground, grab hold of the rope, swing down, and let go to fall into the water. We did it so many times at that spot that it became natural for us. When we arrived that day, the sky was cloudy, like it was going to rain. Since we were already there, we decided to stay. For some reason, the water there was a particular shade of green, to the point where it was hard to see under the water. After a few jump into the river, we joke around that the green in the water belonged to that of a dragon lady. We kept joking around and fooling around with each other, and then a while later, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a huge tail slowly splashing near the edge. I swept my eyes to look at it, but didn't see anything. It was a strange feeling. What I saw did not belong to this world. But since I didn't see anything else anymore, I decided to stop thinking about it. After that, it was my turn to swing on the rope. When I got up there, holding the rope, my friends were cheering for me to do a flip when I got near the water. I swung down, and when I was right on top of the water and about to let go, I took a quick glance down, and what I saw shocked me to my core. I saw a huge dragon face right under the surface, looking at me and opening its mouth, as if waiting for me to jump down into it. It has a large horn on its head, and the size of the creature's head is as big as a refrigerator. I was so shaken that I did not let go of the rope, and then, when the rope reached its maximum height, it began to go back to the shore. There was a tree on the shore, and I just happened to be dragged right to it. It happened so fast that all I could remember was my body smashing into the tree, and hearing my friends scream, and then everything just blacked out. I woke up in the hospital with a fractured rib and a concussion. I had to be in the hospital overnight. Strange things started happening right after I got released from the hospital. At night, my cell phone kept ringing, and when I answered it, there was nothing on the other end at all. I thought it was a prank call, but then on the third call, when I answered it, there was still nothing, but I could hear the sound of rushing waters. I started to panic when I heard the sound because it made me think of what I saw back at the river. The strange thing was that the calls only happened at night. I lived with my parents, but I didn't tell them anything because I thought I could go through this by myself. One night when I was asleep, suddenly, water started leaking from the roof, and I got very wet the moment I opened my eyes. When I ran out to grab my parents and came back into the room, everything went back to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. The only proof that I did not imagine it was that I was still wet from it. I looked at myself and could see that the water was green and that it was slimy. I told my parents about it in the end, and we went to a shaman. He performed a ritual on me and changed my name, saying I had been tagged by a dragon who wanted me. After that, I never went back to the river again. When I turned 19 years old, my parents told me not to stay in my room all day and get a job so I could support myself. I had a bad temper as a young man and couldn't stand it when my parents told me to get a job. I feel like they hated me so much and wouldn't leave me alone in my room. I was addicted to online games and was a true gamer. My father once came into my room and told me to get a job so I could start taking care of myself since I had dropped out of college and was just staying at home all day. I got really mad, packed my stuff into my car, and left. I was so enraged that I drove as far as I could without knowing where I was going. Since I had $700 in cash on me, I assumed that I could survive wherever I went. I was still 4 cities away from home, and it was getting dark. I stopped at Walmart, bought a portable charger, and slept in the Walmart parking lot. Early in the morning, I drove to another city to get as far away from home as possible. I've been driving for a couple days and decided to drive up to the mountains and into the deep forest. I got all the things I needed in my car and did things that I hadn't done before. I park out of nowhere in the forest and begin to start a campfire. It was late, so I gathered wood, opened my back trunk, and sat on it. As I was sitting and watching the crackling fire, I realized how much I missed playing games in my bedroom. As I've gotten older, I've realized that my parents always lectured me because they wanted me to be prepared for life's realities. As I was about to grab my guitar next to me, I heard a woman crying from afar. I stopped moving and listened carefully to the quietness. I flash my flashlight around and see no one. Then there was a crying sound from the top of a tree. When I pointed my flashlight at it, I was horrified to see a woman standing on top of one of the 15 feet high branches. I screamed so loudly and dropped my flashlight. I pick up my flashlight and see that the woman is already on the ground. She is now coming slowly toward me and crying softly. I ran inside my car, put on the high beam, and sped off the dirt road. I just left some of my stuff there. On the dirt road, I can hear the crying ringing in my ears. But what scares me the most is that when I am about to leave the dirt road, I pass the same woman, and she was standing on the side where my driver's side is. This time I got a close look at the woman. Her eyes were hanging, and her face was green and rotten. I was crying all the way out of the forest. I drove straight back home, and I realized that I was so far away from home. It took me 6 hours to get back home. Ever since then, I have learned my lesson. It was one Friday night when my friends and coworkers invited me to a house party in the mountains. I was skeptical at first, but I decided to go anyway. Later that night, I met up with them and carpooled with them since we were all going to the same party. When we arrived at the house, I was feeling a bit weird because it didn't look like a house. It was like a haunted house or like a house that had been there for years. We got inside, and there were so many people that I didn't want to be there anymore. As my friends were having fun, I decided to go upstairs to a room and hide since I regretted tagging along. When I entered the room, it felt so weird because I felt like I was not alone. I tried to forget about it and look around the room, but then I noticed what sounded like a voice humming. I tried to listen to it clearly, but just as I was about to make it out, the sound suddenly stopped. Then it happened again. This time it sounded like it was coming from inside the wall. I went up to it and put my ear right up against the wall. Then I heard it, like someone was knocking on the wall and whispering some words I couldn't quite catch. I started feeling a bit creeped out at this point, but then I tried to be logical. Maybe it was a person from the other room beside me. I got out and went to check, but I stopped dead in my tracks because the noise was coming from the wall, which was facing outside. It couldn't have been anyone from the house unless they knew how to levitate. I got very creeped out at this point, so I just slowly turned and went back down. As I passed by the room, I instinctively took a quick glance at it, not expecting to see anything, but then I saw a little girl rolling into the closet. At this point, I just did not care about anything else and just sprinted all the way down the stairs. I was shaken up when I got down, but seeing so many people again, my courage came back a bit. I went back downstairs and hung out again with the others. As the night went by, I kept it to myself and just tried to enjoy my night, but it just kept coming into my head. I decided to tell one of my friends, and she didn't believe my words. She just kept telling me that it was just all in my head. I managed to deceive myself into thinking that maybe it was indeed all in my head and that the alcohol was the source of it. So later that night, when everyone went home, we spent the night because we had to clean up the mess before we left, and one of my friends rented the house till the next morning. Everyone was obviously buzzed and drunk, so we all went to sleep after cleaning. I was super exhausted, so I went to take a shower. When I shampooed my face and closed my eyes to wash it, I suddenly felt a breeze on my face. That shook me up because that bathroom had no windows, so it should be impossible for any breeze to enter it. I opened my eyes, and then, as if waiting for me to look at them, I could see some hairs on the ground that slowly went out of sight from the doorway. I got really scared then, so I just ran to the bedroom and ended my night. While I was sleeping, I had a dream that a little girl was humming and trying to tell me something, but I couldn't really understand her. In my dream, she was trying to tell me that it was not safe in the house because she had been killed there. I was so scared that I woke up with cold sweats and couldn't go back to sleep. I was just up waiting till everyone got up so we could all clean up and leave. The next morning, one of my friends was telling us that she encountered the same thing with a little girl trying to communicate with her. The little girl was telling her that it was not safe and to hurry up and leave. I was shocked. I thought I was the only one, and maybe, just maybe, I was just hallucinating it. But her confirmation of seeing the same thing did not reassure me. Instead, it freaked me out even more because then what I had seen was, in fact, a ghost. We got up and left the house soon after that. When we were on the way home, one of the friends that rented the house said that maybe it was the cheapest house on the mountain because a lot of other people had also encountered the same thing. Out of curiosity, I got home and searched the house. I found out that it's been abandoned for years because the owner couldn't sell it and instead rented it out to people. I stopped there and did not search anymore for the fear that if I did, I might see the ghost again.